that is their primary source of information, which sometimes is very helpful and sometimes is very toxic. So we noticed that the official web pages are not always the first or the most important source of information, but other people, peers from same countries or same industry. And for this reason, we train people from different communities, different industries to help newcomers. We have mentors who are engineers and mentors who are students and mentors who are entrepreneurs. So from very different areas of life, helping newcomers to have a positive and as empowering as possible integration experience. That is what we do, and what I wish I could have when I came here. As I told, my experience has not been extremely positive, neither easy. I came to Finland in 2011. This autumn I will celebrate 15 years of living in beautiful Finland, and it's a very different country comparing with 2011. There it was very, very seldom to hear other language in a shop, for example, than Finnish. And now it's very, very often that if I am in a shop or in a cafe, I hear at least English, but many times also other languages. So Finland today is a very different country than Finland 10 or 15 years ago or 20 years ago. And there are a lot of positive changes that newcomers are not aware of because they don't know how it used to be. So if you follow me on social media, you probably notice that I am very appreciative and very grateful and very positive, exactly because I can see how much Finland has done and is doing to make life easier for international community here. From changes in legislation to everyday life. For example, the government we have now, it's not very liked, and I understand the reasons behind that, but I also appreciate some good things they do, and I focus on those because they are really helpful. As the new civic orientation training provided to newcomers, it's so helpful to get information on culture, on legislation, on everyday life in a language you understand. Before this civic orientation product or program, the integration training, integration school was provided in Finnish. So you basically was sitting to hear about Finland in a language you didn't know, which made things very complicated. Imagine being taught in Finnish mathematics if you don't know how to count. It's quite challenging. For this reason, because I can compare the situation before and the situation now, I'm very happy for newcomers and very grateful to Finland for providing this program free of charge. And also there is new legislation now requiring at least all public services to have accessible pages, web pages, meaning that accessible communication not only in Finnish and that simplified Finnish, plain Finnish, but also in English and the languages of the biggest communities here. If you haven't noticed, just out of curiosity, check some public services pages and you will see that sometimes it's Finnish, Swedish, English, and maybe Russian or Somali. We even have news in Somali. I don't know any other country who provides news in a language of migrants. So this kind of new tools and measures and programs are, in my opinion, very positive changes. And I want newcomers to know that there is hope, efforts are made, and things are getting better all the time, even if for them it's not as visible as for myself. Yeah, so that is on the intro part. The situation is on the positive side. It doesn't mean there are no negatives there. Finland is a country on planet Earth. So like any other country on this planet, it has positive aspects and then aspects that for a migrant are negative. And I point out that for a migrant, for me, for you, for someone, because we all assess situations and people through the filters that are important to us. So situations or facts are not bad or good. They are neutral. The way how I assess or appreciate or, perceive that. So my perception is then deciding that if that is positive or not. It might be positive for me and negative for another person. And once we remind ourselves that nothing is positive or negative, it's just different, our quality of life improves a lot. And that is not a theory, something I used and helped a lot, and it helped my clients and it helps my team now. When you decide that things are neutral and you can decide if they are positive or negative and for whom, you basically empower yourself. And that has a side effect, better quality of life. Instead of living in victim shoes and seeing everything and everyone around as negative or being there to create you problems. The same person, the same situation will have a very different impact on your life once you decide that it's in your hands to put there a minus or a plus. How does this sound, by the way? I'm curious.
I'm really impressed about changes that happened during this time that you've been living here. That sounds really, really amazing. And you never see these changes on a short distance because, of course, you learn the language and then you start to understand better, and you haven't seen the changes, right?
Yeah. That is the perspective I want to bring to newcomers. Again, to empower them. If you know that positive changes have been made and still this positive trend continues, your quality of life will be very different as compared with experiencing that you are in a country that hates foreigners. Your quality of life will be different, your confidence will be different, your life design plan, if you have one, will feel different. Everything is different based on what glasses we choose to wear in the same country. And I know a lot of people who are very happy here, but they are not so visible because none of us makes big waves when we are okay with our lives. Maybe we post on social media some holiday pictures, but I have not met people who scream everywhere in the city that I'm happy, I have a job or something. Most of the times those who are noisy speak out of frustration, and they have all the rights to be angry and frustrated, but that creates a very distorted picture for newcomers about how life in Finland actually is for migrants, because this social media and media way of working on clicks, and we all know that negative gets more clicks and comments than positive news, create this very, very distorted and damaging picture for newcomers. People decide to come in Finland because it's a good country and they come with big dreams. And then if we cut their wings before they even learn to fly here, that is quite unfair. So that is why I'm so vocal and so active in talking about the positives, since so many people talk only about the negatives. I want newcomers to know that in Finland, as in any other country, there are chances to build a good life, and there is also risk for not so good things to happen, depending on skills, background, what you put in, how much effort you are ready to invest in yourself, and the people you connect with, and everything that you choose. Our choices create the most of our results in life, in the same situation, in the same country.
I would like to read some comments, and
Yeah.
there are some questions that might be really interesting to ask right now. Rosa Victoria, she's saying that I've noticed that immigrants in my home country have the same frustration as me in their country. That's why being positive in the way of going. Yeah, so that's her words of support. Unfortunately, yes, camera now switched off as we changed the change of setups for the meetings. And there is really nice questions from the audience.
Please.
One asked, how do you do small talks in Finnish office? What are considered safe topics? And I believe that there is a guy who just moved to Finland, because there is another message from probably him. What are considered safe topics, and are there any subjects that might be viewed as too personal or inappropriate?
Yeah, thank you for these questions, because it reminds me of things that I would do very differently now compared with how I, chose to behave and to understand things at the moment when I came here. I came to Finland after living in different countries, but not in a North European country. So North European countries are their own group, exactly like South European or South Asian countries represent a cultural group and so on. And I haven't at that moment had a clear or realistic picture in my mind. I thought, well, I lived internationally, I worked internationally, I will manage, it's just another country. But it wasn't. I was not prepared. Actually, I have not done my homework. I didn't know basically nothing about Finland, because my husband left Finland very young, in his early 20s, and lived globally. He is a global citizen like myself, not a Finnish person anymore. And because he was my husband, I had the misconception that I know about Finland and Finnish culture enough, which it wasn't the case. So when we came here, my husband actually could not find a job in Finland. He tried 3 years to find a job, or not the type of job for his level of skills and background in the industry. So he continued to travel and work abroad, not in Finland, even after 15 years. And I think that it's very important for people to understand that if we don't make our homework, we will need to invest some years and a lot of effort in actually understanding where we are and how this culture and country functions, in order to align, not to change, not to forget who we are, but to align in a strategic way our understanding and communication style and behavior style to what works here. Of course, I can choose to be a rebel and change nothing, but I can say you, after working with a few thousands of people, that doesn't work. It's not intelligent choice. It's a choice. I respect everyone's choices, but strategic, intelligent choices are those where you save the most important parts of you and your values and what makes you you, but also align your exterior, behavior and the way you communicate to people to what works well in this culture. So I was not prepared, and I misunderstood a lot of things, which caused a lot of unnecessary pain. I suffered for things that were only in my mind. Like I thought that Finnish people are unfriendly and unpolite, and they don't like other people. I told myself very disempowering stories that were not even true. So I suffered for something that was not true, until I learned that the way Finnish people communicate, the way Finnish people make friends, it's very different. And once I understood that, I had no problem. Once I aligned my way of behaving and communicating with what is expected here, I had no problem at all. It doesn't mean I am friend with all Finns. Again, in Finland too, there are people we resonate with and people we don't. And in any other country, we will be friends with some people and not so good friends with other people. It's perfectly human and it happens everywhere. But once I understood how this culture communicate and what this culture values, I could talk to them in a language that made sense for them without changing who I am. Many clients and people I worked with or collaborated with came back with this question that should I change everything? Should I forget my background and people that are important to me? I said, no, you don't. You absolutely don't. That makes you unique. That actually can be your winning card in this country. But learning how to communicate with people around you is a sign of strategic thinking. About what is taboo, I think nothing. It's more about the context and the level of what kind of relation you have with that person. Unlike other cultures, Finnish people separate quite clearly, sometimes drastically, professional life and personal life. So at work, you don't share the type of things you would share with a friend. In other cultures, the one where I'm born, for example, people at work are your second family. They know everything about you and you about them, and you help a lot in private matters also. But in Finland, most of people like to keep things separately. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just different. And friendships take longer to build, and they are based on trust due to very clear historical factors, like, for example, living in cities is very new in Finland. And by new, I mean historical time. In historical time, 50 years, 60 years is the same as 5 minutes. It means very, very short time. And because not long ago, people were still living isolated in forest, far away with each other, they didn't have opportunities to practice small chat and to be always surrounded by people and to share everything. They are very, very used to keep things for themselves. Maybe they go in the forest and talk to a tree, which, by the way, is therapeutic. But for them, talking to another person about very private things is not something they are used with. So it's just a different history that programs them to have different behaviors. If you come from a country where people live on top of each other and you have millions in a city, you can't hide anything. Even if you don't want to say private things, everyone knows about your private life, everything, because you are there in the same, glass bubble. You can't hide. So you come with very, very different mindset. And there is very tempting when we see something different to decide it's bad. But the reality is it's not bad or good. It's just different. I warmly recommend everyone to make that as a mantra. Every time you see something that is challenging your mindset, if you need to label that, label it as different. If you label that as bad, you will have an experience of not being safe. Your mind, your brain will read that as an unsafe situation. But if you label that as different, then you don't activate your nervous system like for a danger, which again will mean different hormones in your body. So everything you do, it's important to be filtered from this point of view. Is this helping me? Is this empowering me? Is this giving me a sense of safety? Or is this activating all my antennas for danger, and then I will behave like I am in a war zone instead of behaving like I am in a good place? That it's, again, about quality of life.
I maybe can say my perspective of the short talks. I do not work at the office, but I often meet people online, and there is still small talks before we start some negotiations. And the very, very often topic is the weather. And from the very beginning, as I'm Russian, that was super difficult for me. We are much more straightforward, like let's go straight to the topic. But for now, since 5 years, 7 years actually, I'm already living since 7 years in Finland, I realized that this topic gave us a time to breathe in and breathe out. Give us a time to synchronize and saying, hey, in my city or in my country now it's sunny, and you understand that in his country it's sunny too, and it's something like, we have the same sun out of the window, and it's something super common, or it's like rainy, and you still like make the same room for you too. And just this maybe 2 minutes talk. That was very difficult for me to start with this, because for me, speaking about weather, it's been always like spending my time for nothing. But now I realize that that's not for nothing. It's for creating a space, creating like a safe space for two who talk. That's about the safe connection. But then when I see that people are interested in some topics, you kind of became open for them as well. So you became like, even if politics is not your option, you can like support the topic a little bit and then jump to something else.
Yes.
For example.
Yeah. Very good point. I'm happy you brought this up, because many foreigners think that it's small, talk like chatting, but actually, again, because I studied so much Finnish history and psychology, it's not, and I will tell you why. Because people lived isolated. They met only for very precise, important work or discussions. And weather has been always very important topic, because weather is, as we see, you have half year of winter, you have snowing in June, so weather decides if you live or not. Historically, again, Finnish brain is set to see a lot of meaning and importance and life threatening in some situations aspects in weather. If you come from countries where you have 4 seasons, or from countries where you have always summer, you can always go to the mango tree and get a mango and eat and feel, not hungry anymore. You have very different topics. But weather in Finland and forest is part of life, is a family member. So most of times, Finns again don't practice small chat, because it was not something important, and many times not even possible if you live alone in forest for most of the time. Weather is a very good topic, and it bears a lot of meaning in Finnish culture. modern Finnish person, young Finnish person, they not even know, why? Because it's a transgenerational information that comes from very long time ago. But that is why, whether it's so present in Finnish conversations. This new generation, they don't need to be afraid anymore. There is mango in shop all the time. But that topic is in their genes because it used to be extremely important for survival.
Super interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah,
For your perspective. And there's another question from the guy who recently joined the Finnish company. And he's saying that he's getting mixed signals on conflict resolution. Some say to confront the person directly. Others say to go straight to management. Is there an accepted cultural norm for that? So what you recommend?
I recommend taking the official path, and again, I will explain why. Finnish culture is very honest in terms of nobody will steal your wallet. Authorities are not corrupt. If you talk to a police, that police will actually try to help you. If you go to a doctor, you will not need to push some money in his or her pocket to take care of you. So in this sense, Finnish culture is honest. But in terms of direct conversations that have conflict potential, things are different. There is, again, a psychological and historical reason for that. Finland has been under Sweden for many, many centuries, for a long time. And then it has been over 100 years under Russian administration. They were not part of Russia, but basically had that leading level from the Russian side. So Finnish people lived under pressure many generations. That means they haven't had the experience of being equal with the leading group. So if you are at the same level, you basically can have quite open conversations, but not confrontational conversations. Confrontation is avoided. And if it's somebody above you, in theory, you are equal. In the real life, I have seen different situations. So, and I understand it from this historical point of view. Not only there were leaders, but there were leaders from other countries. Imagine what this does to your psychology when you live like that generation after generation after generation. So we all have in different countries some leading class, but most of the times they are from the same country, from the same nation. Here, the leading class has been from Sweden and then for a while from Russia. If you when you will make Finnish friends, you will notice that still Swede Finns consider themselves better people. So Swede Finns, which are still Finnish citizens, look at the Finns as second class, even these days. Can you imagine what that means in terms of open conflict? And this is why another important topic in conversation is ice hockey, because in sports, Finland has been at least time to time better than Sweden and better than Russia. So Finnish people are very, they give a lot of importance to ice hockey and, sports where Finland is at least sometimes better. And it means a lot to them. That's why ice hockey is another topic that is used as, creating space for connection, as Julia told. It's a very important topic in Finnish culture for these reasons. So historically, when a problem, was on the table, the Finnish person took that to the leader, who usually was Swedish. Okay, if it was at the same level, they dealt with that internally, and usually they supported each other because they all had the same oppressor from other country. People connect when they have common suffering, and usually, if you are in war, even if neighbors from, I don't know, Ukraine, they didn't like each other before the war. When the war came, they forgot their misunderstandings and became friends against the common enemy. So somehow this is the same process. Of course, long ago, but we know that transgenerational trauma doesn't disappear in one generation. It takes a lot of time. So Finnish people stick together, and from other point of view, they might seem like they hate foreigners. Actually, they don't. They have transgenerational trauma in relation with foreigners. Swedish were foreigners, Russian were foreigners. First waves of migrants were people who didn't match well with Finnish culture. So there is not a lot of positive experiences with foreigners, and that create a certain behavior that can be misread as hating foreigners or being racist. Of course, sometimes it's really racist, but many times it's not. It's just understanding of the behaviors that have this historic charge. So I would go on the official path, and each company, each school has clear guidance lines about what you do if somebody is mistreating you, what you do if something happened and you feel that you are not treated well, or you are not safe, or you are in a situation when you need help. That it's again something I very much value in Finland, that you always get help. In other countries, you always get help if you pay for help. If you have money, then police helps you, doctors helps you, priest helps you. But if you don't have money, you don't exist, basically, which is not the case here. You always get help as long as you follow those steps that are clearly established, and at the end of that process, then you will have some resolution. And if you are not happy with that, then you can complain against that also. So you can always speak for yourself, but speaking up is not a Finnish culture appropriate way. Again, it's just different. In other countries, you fight and then you are friends. You go to have a beer. In Finland, you keep yourself, you content yourself. You follow the official path. So that is my recommendation, to follow the official path.
Thank you. That was really interesting. Guys, if you do have questions, please use Q&A section and we can go through them with Deeana. And I will be happy to ask them. But so far, maybe I can give some my perspectives, and you can add your words about, like, from historical part of view. I do really like this process. So I think that in my story, in my situation, a lot of connection, not work connection, but like personal connection being built based on kids, based on hobbies. And I know that many people grow connections based on dogs, like yes. three main life how to say areas which bring in people together here in Finland. So if you don't have kids, maybe you can borrow a dog. You can even not buy one, but just to borrow, be a dog sitter for time to time. And it already gives you like some more open conversation with people from your neighborhood, which is super nice. Kids and hobbies, yes. And if you have some hobby, it's always super useful to spend some time together with people when you're in the same room doing or in the same place doing something together. It's always making you closer to each other.
Yeah, yeah, very good points. And again, it's giving so much food for thoughts, and also for this conversation on culture, because Finnish culture, due to weather conditions and historical aspects, is very functional. Everything has a meaning and a role, and it must have a benefit. So people don't talk just to produce air. They talk when they have something to say that has a meaning and function, and also has value. And in Finnish culture, as in many other cultures, this is a common aspect you can build on. Children are very important. So raising healthy, happy children is important. A lot of efforts are done not only in family, but at cities level, at state level. I don't know if you are aware, but the new legislation, or according with this new legislation in Finland, everyone will have at least college degree or professional certification. The mandatory studying was before until 18. So when you turn 18, you could do whatever. But now the new legislation changed that. So everyone studies free of charge with support from state until they have either college degree or professional certification. And that is, in my opinion, a clear proof of how well the new generation is taken care of. In other countries, only children whose parents have money can study. But here, everyone, and also studying in university, having high-level studies is very affordable in Finland compared with other countries. Also, the new legislation requires daycares to have teachers. So far, a daycare could have teachers, practical nurses, social workers, a lot of very different people in numbers that were decided locally. Now, each daycare must hire a minimum number of teachers. Imagine how much that will raise the bar. And it's everywhere in the entire Finland. Another thing I very much appreciate here, that children's education and quality of life is not depending on parents' income. All children have the same quality of education from daycare. I think that is something to celebrate. At least for me, it means a lot, because one of my values is education. And I really, really appreciate this new legislation that makes education affordable to all children, and make sure that you go to this Lukio, to the college or to a professional training, and then the state takes care of that. And even if your child is maybe a bit lazy, they will not have any choice than to study, because it's mandatory. The social services, employment service will call and will tell, now you go to school. It's not a choice because you turn 18, you can decide, no, you can't, you need to have a certificate. That about the kids and how important the new generation is here. Again, the practicality and functionality is seen also in how Finnish people, how much they love pets. So we all in Finland also like to take care of someone. And then if we don't have children, having a pet is a second choice. Finnish people being very independent and honest, and not seeing it as an option to depend on others. If they feel that they can't afford a child, they will not have children, they will have a pet. Other people want to have pets because according with Finnish legislation, you must take your pet to walk 2 times a day. It's not a choice, it's mandatory. And then they know they will move more. So there is always either a value, important value, or a function. And having a pet, it's a good strategy. If I was moving now to Turku without children, I would consider having a pet because that creates a common subject to discuss with Finnish people, and it's something that has meaning for them. If you want to connect in, I don't know, in Italy, in Milano, and you talk about fashion, you make friends. In Finland, fashion is not a thing, is considered quite superficial. It's changing. The new generation in Finland is different than the previous ones because they have been exposed to internet. They have been exposed to different cultures. They traveled. Traveling is not something that was affordable for previous generations. Finland was a country where people were not living in luxury, by contrary. So traveling internationally is a new sport here. And many Finnish people never traveled out of Finland. So for them, all these migration waves feels almost like an invasion because they are not psychologically prepared for so big numbers of people who have very different behaviors, different way of living, different way of dressing. It's very sometimes overwhelming for older generations. And again, it's easy to misread that as discrimination or whatever else, when actually they are overwhelmed and they need to take some distance, the same way you would take distance from something that you don't know what that is and maybe it's dangerous. So you need space between you and that possible risk factor. It doesn't make you a bad person. It's just that you need space to feel safe again. You need time and space to get a sense of what is that there and is that dangerous or is safe for you.
Mm-hmm. I do have another question here. Swedish and Finnish both are official languages. If you feel that it's hard to learn Finnish, do learn Swedish properly instead of Finnish can help integrate Finnish society to any extent. But you can comment on that from Turku.
In Turku, we actually have now strategy, let's say, to raise the level of Swedish language integration programs, to provide those as an option. Based on my experience, I recommend learning Finnish. Why? Because yes, Swedish is the second official language, but remember, historically, Swedish has been the language of the leading class, sometimes oppressing class, it has been imposed to Finnish people. It was the only language you could study in. So you could not choose to study in Finnish or Swedish because Swedish was the only option and that was not your mother tongue. Again, it's important to be aware of how that impacts your psychology. And there are these Finn-Swedish people or Swede-Finnish people in Finland in quite big numbers. Before migration, the Swedish community was the biggest minority in Finland. And in some places of Finland, you can manage well with Swedish, but unless you live in one of those small communities, I recommend choosing Finnish language. I also noticed that the younger generation not even wants to learn Swedish anymore. I studied in Finnish language with Finnish students, and I noticed that they are completely against it. They don't want to, even if people I studied with in university, they had Swedish in college, they had Swedish in the first years of education, but they completely hated it, and they were fighting against continuing in university to study Swedish. They absolutely were against it. So the new generation probably will less and less use Swedish unless they belong to the minority. Here near Turku, we have this Parainen, is a small city near Turku, beautiful small summer city, and in that place you can very well manage with Swedish, because most of people there speak Swedish and they are proud to speak Swedish, and they even see themselves as a bit of better the elite class. Still, this generation, can you imagine this generation? Still, if you ask, you will see that there is this mindset of being part of elite if you are that Swede Finnish people. It's very, very, very interesting and very impactful in everyday life.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe I can give some other perspective, because I've been talking to people who've been integrated in Swedish, and there is some advantages as well. So there's like two-side medal, and you can choose what you want. And I myself, I'm also learning Finnish, crying, but continue learning. But yeah, what about Finnish? Swedish, it's a little bit easier, not little bit, a lot easier language. And then Swedish people is a minority here, as you mentioned. And then for them, like internationals for them are minority as well. So they might be more open for internationals from some extension. And then, for example, at school, there is like not only in Turku or some other Swedish-speaking regions, Swedish-speaking schools or hobbies, but of course, and you will get a place there as you speak Swedish. That's the problem. But for example, for hobbies, it will be some limitations, because of course the majority of hobbies is in Finnish, and you will be suffering at that. Then universities and so on also is better to speak Finnish, I guess. Because it will give you more
depending on the city. I think in Vasa, for example, they have and also here in Turku is this Obu Academy. So you can actually study in Swedish at any level of education.
But maybe the competition there is higher than.
It depends what you want to study, but because it's important to also name these positive aspects. I can give a personal example. That first Finnish person who opened her house to me, it's not easy to get invited, or it takes a while. You need to build trust first. But this was Swede Finnish person. I didn't know, and I was surprised that she invited me to her house, and very, very welcoming. And then later I understood that she is part of this minority. So them being a minority, they are also, of course, more open to other minorities. And the difference between Sweden and Finland is that Sweden has been ruling different countries. So they have this a bit of colonial mindset of we are everywhere home. We are the elite, the leading class. So they are very comfortable with foreigners. It's a very different mindset. On the other hand, I think somehow Finnish people, having this sisu and pride, they have been somehow motivated to also work harder and be better, because they wanted to demonstrate that they are equal, they are as good or maybe better. So whatever happens in life and to countries, not only to people, has always a positive aspect. For Finland, I think it has been very motivating to to become stronger and better, and now the happiest country on the planet, also due to this urge, this need to demonstrate to the big brother. It's like in a family. The youngest brother wants to demonstrate to the older one that we have value, we are better, we are smarter. It's absolutely human. It's not even about Finland and Sweden or another country. These are basic human needs that we can see in a family, and we can also see in country at country level, because countries are people. It's just human psychology at different levels: individual level, family level, company level, country level, continent level. Is the same. We are all humans, and the basic needs are very similar.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, depending on where you live and the context, Swedish language is a good option. And now there is a window of opportunity for foreigners who learn Swedish, because new generation, as I told, is not so happy to learn Swedish anymore. And Finnish legislation requires public servants and nurses and teachers to speak Swedish. A foreigner who speaks fluent Finnish, fluent Swedish, might have a good chance to get a job. A Finnish who doesn't want to learn Swedish will have. So there is a window of opportunity now here for those who study Swedish.
So yeah, difficult to say what to choose. That's really
context, location, industry, all of that must be considered.
Mm-hmm. So what about becoming friends with Finns? Are there specific ways that Finns show their friendliness, or that they would like to be friends? Very nice question. Thank you for that. I may share probably. I've been if you are invited to somebody's house, this is a huge step,
Yes.
a very huge step for Finns. And many times I've been invited to a house of neighbors. So for me, it's been like a kind of easier way to have some relations. And as I have a daughter, that was always easy to make some friends with the people who has the same age kids. And my daughter is like a super connector for me at this point. And then, but still, before coming to to the house, or I invited to my house, there was always time outside of the house. So we've been walking around, saying, let's go for the play date, if it's talk about kids. And I believe that with dogs it might be same, let's go to the walk together with dogs. So it will be like a very nice connection. And how you can next time say, hey, let's have a tea, or I'm inviting you for the dinner, or I can prepare something special, cook something special for you. And then you need to set a date, because if you're just saying let's meet someday, it will never happen. So it's better to make some clear dates. Maybe not from the first dialogue, but the next time when you see this person a week later, you can say that, yes, now we need to have some, I don't know, dinner together. That's my perspective. But I'm really, my, practical thing, and your theoretical, really interested to learn if you have some tips and tricks by science.
Yeah, I think that it's again the practicality of this culture, and having a clear, arrangement, like when, how, why. It's very important, and it's the same with making friends. In other countries, we connect by talking, because people are so close to each other. You can't avoid talking. You live a life talking, basically, and create connection by talking. But in Finland, again, because living at far distances from each other, people connected when something happened, when they needed, I don't know, to buy together a tractor, or to prepare together for the next winter, or to buy together a cow or whatever. So this is how they made friends, by connecting for something very practical, very functional. And that's why in my experience, again, I speak about my experience, meaning also a lot of other people I worked with. The easiest way to connect is to do something together. So you connect not by talking, by doing. Talking comes later, and it's just secondary. The action is the most important thing, what you do together. It can be a hobby, it can be taking children to the playground, it can be walking the dog, whatever, as long as it involves action. So it's practical, it's functional. This is how you connect. You mentioned that the common tractor, the common cow, the common, I don't know, something is the same. Now you have the common walking the dog, or the common activity, I don't know, some sport, so that you stay in shape. And that is how you connect around some activities, not so much around talking. And once you understand that, then you know, I got my first friends and connections registering at different courses. All my Finnish friends actually have been colleagues at different trainings I took in Finnish, because we studied together, I don't know, some therapy modality or something like that. They discover that, oh, you know this, and I do this, and how you deal with this, I don't know, with anxiety. And then that, because it was practical, important, meaningful, connected. And later, yeah, we talk about children and so on. But that comes when the trust is already there. So opening your heart, opening your house doesn't come as easily. It doesn't mean nothing. Again, it's not bad or good, it's just different. You need to build trust first, and then the door opens. And being such a practical, functional culture, everything must be arranged in advance. If you think about weather here and what kind of very, very harsh living conditions have people dealt with historically, they always planned to survive. Planning was extremely important and required, you know. So planning is part of the Finnish mindset. And it's still there, even if this generation is living very comfortably. It's still in the Finnish genes. So everything must be planned, including visiting someone. You make a plan, you decide when. And also because life was difficult, giving and receiving was very important. So if you give me something, I know I need to give you back the same value, maybe a bit extra. And that also is one reason why Finnish people don't make easily gifts or invite you home, because they don't want to create pressure on you to buy something or to invite you to their house. So they, most of times, they have in mind this giving, receiving, win-win. What is the function? What is the practical, you know, consequence, and so on. Their mind just function differently, not again on plus or minus labeling style, but differently. And it's important to understand that.
I just think that's just a short question from me, and we have several more questions around the audience about the asking for help. What do you think if you ask somebody, let's say your Finnish colleague or your Finnish neighbor, for some help, if that creates anything, any movement to make a friendship after, or to make some more deep relations, not like neighborhood relations, but more connected?
Very good question. Actually, it's the only way to get help. And again, many foreigners misunderstand that as Finnish people not being helpful. Actually, is a form of respect. Finnish people are raised to be very independent. And if someone is giving unrequired help, it might be seen as even offending. So if I am independent, you are independent, I trust you to be able and capable and skilled enough to manage your life. And if I come and tell you how to live your life, I'm offending you. For that reason, I'm not offering help if you don't ask me for help. But if you ask me for help, I also know that you trust me enough. So asking for help, it's also a way to show trust, that if I ask your opinion, I ask your help, of course I trust you. I wouldn't ask otherwise. But you giving me help without me asking, I might see it as a distrust, gesture, because you think I'm not able to manage. And for me, that was one of the first cultural shocks. I have been raised to always provide help, especially to elderly and children. And when we came here, I was jumping to help all elderly because nobody was doing that, and I felt like, oh, but how is this possible? Nobody helped these people. And my husband told me, don't go there. They will be angry. And I thought, no, I need help. Look what big bags they have, and nobody opened doors for them. And then they were turning like, what do you want from me? Because they take pride in managing independently. And when they can't manage independently, then they move to live in those elderly houses where they pay for support. And for someone from other culture, it can be misread as different things, but actually it's this fair exchange of services. You help me, I pay you. So I help you also because I pay your salary. It's a fair exchange of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And being fair is very important in this culture.
We have a raised hand from Cecilia. Would you like to open your mic and ask your question?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So I just wanted to say that the chat looks like it's inactivated for me. And I just wanted to send a message with a link to our website. I work at Lukan Integration, and we give advice on choosing Swedish language integration in Finland, because we were talking about that. So if anybody is interested in that, you could book a guidance and discuss it with us more in detail, because as you said, it's a case-by-case situation always.
Thank you, Lukan, for joining our conversation today. And you can send your link in Q&A. At the very beginning of this webinar, we realized that chat is not working. By some settings, we cannot change it right away. So could you please send your link directly to the chat, to the Q&A? It's dots on a right down there.
Yes, thank you. I will do that.
Okay, thank you. And we have another question from Pavel. How strong is the Protestant ethic in Finland? Can we say that the foundation of people's lives and relations, their attitudes toward work, business, and their country are built on this ethic?
Very, very, very good question. Yeah, I want to say hi to Lukan first, because we collaborate here in Turku, and they have been very good partners for us. And for whoever has time and energy, I recommend learning at least some Swedish if living in a city where Swedish is spoken. I plan to. I never found time for it, but I would absolutely like it. It is on my to-do list. And for those with languages from the Nordic family, it's a Germanic family of languages, it's a lot easier to learn. So yeah, it's always individual. As I told, context, industry, there are some factors to consider, but if you have time and energy, learn both. And then based on where you live in Finland, you might have more advantages from learning Finnish, let's say like that, especially on the job market. Yeah, very good question. And I'm coming back to psychology and history. This Protestant mindset and culture and religion has been imposed to Finnish people. It was not a choice. It was not a free choice. For Finnish people, God was nature, and you can still see it. Forest is a family member. That's why Finnish people take it so hard when foreigners disrespect forest. I don't know if you noticed, but a very beautiful concept is this: every man right, every human right to go to forest and pick mushrooms and forest fruits and so on. And some foreigners misuse that. They go and pick everything they find and then they sell it. This is so disrespectful for Finnish culture. It's against this concept of every person right. If you go and pick 100-kilo mushrooms, then the next person who comes there, they will find nothing. And it's violating the concept of fairness in Finland, and is violating the concept of respecting forests, because this type of almost industrial picking of fruits is damaging for forest. Finnish people go there to pick for themselves, for their families only. And forest is so important in Finnish culture. Leaving garbage there, going and listening music at the maximum volume is seen as a violation of this value. So for the forest, the nature is not just something out there. It's part of Finnish heart, the Finnish family. And I hope that many will understand that and give the respect it deserves. So God used to be Mother Nature. And then this new religion has been brought and imposed into Finnish soul. And it has been done in a very strong, I would say almost aggressive way. I know from Finnish friends that people were punished if they were not, aligning themselves to the new religion, and maybe they could not study if they were not part of church. So it has been something forced into their soul, and immediately when they could choose, they took distance, and that's why many people left church. And now church actually is playing a very intelligent game of coming to people instead of forcing people to come to church. That's why you can see in Finland that there are concerts in, like any type of concert in churches. You can even practice yoga in churches. You can get couple therapy for free in churches, while this is very expensive service out of this context. So the church is now trying to build these bridges, because many Finnish families left church the moment they could, as again an act of freedom against some type of oppression that has been a part of the context historically.
And one question here, if we talk about churches, might be a good place for community, for belonging, for making friends. What do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. And church is very happy now to get people back to church. So this creates, because many Finnish people left the church, this created another type of window of opportunity. When foreigners go to church, the church is very happy to embrace them. And I very much appreciate that Finnish church these days is not dogmatic. You don't need to change your religion. For example, if I wanted to have a marriage ceremony in church in my previous home country, my husband would have needed to take my Orthodox, church as his official religion. But in Finland, you don't need to do that. And also, if you go to events organized by church, you can keep your religion freely. And if you want to benefit of services provided by church, nobody asks you if you agree with Protestantism or anything like that. So church in Finland these days is very open, very flexible, very tolerant, which in my opinion very much reminds me of Buddhism, for example. So far, in my understanding, Buddhism was the only context, cultural, religious context where any of your choices were respected. But I can see this in real life in Finland. You can have any religion you want, you can have any belief you want, and still benefit of events and services provided by Finnish church.
Yeah, that's true. I do really love this Christmas concert, even if I'm also from Orthodox Church, or even I'm not really religious at all, but I do love this music. I do love this atmosphere.
Yeah.
Everyone is very welcome. And it's a really nice place to make a community as well, because you have some joint topics. Even if you're not religious, you might ask, you might be curious, you might learn some cultural and some thing from, And I actually, also one of my neighbors, he's been a priest in one church, and he's been amazing. We've been talking so many things with about life, about his life, about life in general. That was amazing. He's like impressive person. Another question that I had, and I think that we have a very little of them already left. This one is for me. If someone already has strong technical experience, especially in IT, but no Finnish work history, what is the fastest way to become employable in Finland or through global remote roles? So there is like two directions for your job search situation. First, it's international companies in Finland which official working language is English. That's not that small amount. You can, make a list which companies fits you with your tech stack. And a second is go global and check out the companies outside of Finland. We at Nerdsbay recommend basically focus for companies, let's say, in countries where the salary level is slightly bigger than in Finland, US, UK, Germany, Netherlands, Denmark. So the Central Europe, I would say, North Europe, Sweden, Norway, also a good market for Finnish professionals who live in Finland. Then Emirates, Israel, Singapore. Those countries are also providing good salary level, and you can apply there and work legally, stay legally here in Finland. So if you need any questions regarding that, you can book a call with us at our website, and my colleague Polina, who is also here at the call, will give you like a full instruction about that. Let's go for the next questions. About the language. Muhammad, I feel you. I'm learning Finnish every day. That's me. But realistically, it will take time to become fluent, and maybe never you will speak Finnish as Finnish people, because it's even I know that. Yeah,
But you don't need to. It's another thing I so much like in Finnish culture, that perfectionism is not a national sport. I come from, and I worked in cultures where perfectionism is expected, and the Finnish people are so relaxed in these terms. You don't need to be perfect. Nobody will disrespect you for speaking bad Finnish. So speak bad Finnish today to be able to speak better Finnish tomorrow, and so on. It's a very good country to be imperfect, very tolerant.
That's amazing words. But there is another piece of the question. In your experience, how can international students still stay competitive for jobs while they're in their learning phase? I can also answer this question, but I would love to hear your opinion as well.
In my experience, remember that I do have experience with many hundreds of people, but it doesn't mean I seen everything or I met everyone. So I want to emphasize that I speak from my point of view and from my experience. And people might have different experiences, but what I noticed is that it's very important to focus on what makes you unique. Otherwise, if you compete for the same job with the same certificates and the same type of skills, it's not realistic to expect to be chosen. I mean, why? I used to have a beauty center in my previous home country, and I can honestly say that I would have never hired people who can't communicate with my clients. A business is about making money, it's not charity. So a business will always analyze you based on the value you bring to the company. And if you bring no extra value comparing with a Finnish applicant, of course they will choose the Finnish, not because they are racist, but because it's a business. And a business, again, is not charity. It's about being competitive on the market. So focus on what makes you unique. My first jobs, before coming to Finland, I had leading positions in different companies, and I also freelanced as a coach. And when I came here, I quite quickly understood that Finnish language is very important, and I will not be able to work with Finnish clients if my Finnish is not good enough. And for a while, I continued to work with international people, but that was not aligned with what I wanted. What I wanted was to integrate, to be part of this society, to help my child feel home here. So part of my plan was to work with Finnish people, Finnish clients, Finnish companies. And then I paused and I thought about what of all the skills I have could bring me a job where high level of Finnish is not required. And when I had the basic of Finnish language, then I provided classes in this health movement, mindful movement, things that I only studied because I enjoyed those. I practiced yoga for years because I find yoga very useful, and I luckily had also certification that I never knew I will need, but it was useful here. So I thought, okay, I can teach yoga, I can teach qigong, I can teach this kind of mindful movement, and I don't need a lot of Finnish for that, because when you move, especially in Finland, you don't talk a lot. And that is how I started. Those were my first, gigs. And when I wanted to find a job, and I went to talk to principals of these adult education centers. They told, well, but we have a lot of Finnish yoga teachers, and they are better to talk to clients. And I knew I need to bring some extra value. And my selling point was that, yeah, you have a lot of Finnish yoga teachers, but I'm a coach and a therapist, and I bring this therapeutic approach to movement. So I'm not teaching sports. I am teaching therapeutic healing movement. And that is why they gave me a chance. After the first class, the clients were happy. I got more classes, and my clients talked about me. And then people were calling and asking, can you come to teach us? Or we have this tyhjypäivä, this work well-being day. Do you want to come to teach us? And everything started from me pausing to think that, okay, what I can sell, what makes me unique, and I don't need a lot of Finnish for that. If I was stuck like many, many migrants in the idea, I have been always a boss, I want to be a boss, then probably nothing would have happened for many years, if ever. And this is the mistake many migrants do, that, oh, I have this engineer certificate and I will do nothing else. And then they are unemployed for 20 years and they are bitter and depressed and have very poor quality of life because they didn't give themselves a chance to explore. Maybe it works, maybe not, but testing, different solutions will help you to find your path. So flexibility and strategic thinking are very important for quality of life.
Thank you, Deeana. I maybe also add a few words from my perspective, from Nerdsbay perspective, that if you're a student right now, you know that there is a super high competition for junior roles. So when you finalize your education, you need to be a middle level already. So use your time to make some pet project, to volunteer, to make some I don't know what is your profession, but try to make something before. So you will finish your education already as a middle level, not a junior one. And of course, Finnish language is important in Finland, but if you can work remotely, then the market is bigger. Do remember that. And we have just time is over, but I do have a question from one guy who is asking for contacts of mentors for immigrant professionals. He said that the initiative is very interesting and very smart and intelligent, and he would like to have this list. Can we share the link here in Q&A, or we also can share the link with the recording that we made today?
Yeah, you can share also my contact details, and if you live in Turku or this area, I'm happy to connect you with a mentor. And if you live somewhere else and I have some contact there, I'm happy to help. I am always happy to help people who are making an effort and who are acting instead of sitting and complaining, because everything we do, everything I do will impact your life. And everything Julia does will impact the entire international community and your life, and it goes in all directions. Because we are a minority, whatever one person does has some level of impact on the entire community, and this is very important to keep in mind. And back to the internships, we live in a different country now, as I told. Now we have this employment of record companies that are like a gift, in my opinion. I keep talking about that, what an opportunity that is, and it wasn't available before. And also another thing that is very beautiful in Finland is that work is work. It can be internship, it can be volunteering, it doesn't matter. As long as you actively contribute, you get respect and you are seen as someone who is part of the society. Any type of contribution, even if it's not a job, because we all know that the economy is now quite fragile, it's not thriving, it will take a while to do better. So finding jobs is not so accessible these days. Everyone knows that. A lot of Finnish people are unemployed, but finding ways to contribute will make you visible in a positive way and appreciated. And then people will support you. As I told clients that I didn't ask them to, they sent me other clients because they appreciated my intention to contribute, to do something. It's right. Very appreciated in this culture, and it's something to use strategically.
And it's again doing something together, making a stronger connection that we've been speaking about, like yes. Not talking about something together, but doing something together.
Yes.
That's like so many takes away I do have from this conversation. Thank you, Deeana. I really enjoyed this topic. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for being with us till the very end. I'm happy that we had this session, and I don't know, let us know what you think, because we will send a feedback request. So let us know. And maybe you can also point out what you would like to talk more about with Deeana or with other speakers. So we can arrange other webinars, but already on a autumn season.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Julia and Nerdsbay. Very nice to provide this kind of support, because I know it's helping and it's making a difference. So I'm happy to share.
Thank you so much. That was a huge value. Bye.
You are in a good country, guys. Remember, it's a good country. That's why we came here. Nobody is migrating somewhere where the situation is worse than in their countries. We chose to come here, and we can have a good life here, all of us.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.